What's up, folks? I just wanted to let y'all know ahead of time that one, I'm not entirely sure which microphone this recorded through, so if it sounds a little different, that's why. And also, there are some minor spoilers within this episode for the Clone Wars, so if you don't want those or want to avoid them, then go ahead and don't listen to this until you've finished up that series, or at least season 5, I think, is the spoiler that this comes from. So I just wanted to let y'all know that, and hope y'all enjoy what I have for y'all today.
A desert planet with twin suns.
Why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?
Use my knowledge. Much to learn. You still have.
Welcome back to Twin Sun Talks Regs. I'm your host, Jonah Liu. Thank you so much for listening. We have another guest on today, which is super, super exciting. Coming all the way from Houston, Texas. He is the real-life Aquaman, my personal Star Wars protege, and he also happens to be my brother or whatever. We got Jeb Lou on today. Jeb, how's it going?
Pretty good. Glad to be on here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Okay, so per the usual, we're going to have a quick profile of Jeb. We're just going to have him list out his favorite movie, his favorite character, favorite TV show, and if he could have a lightsaber color, what would it be? So, Jeb, why don't you hit us with all four of those real quick?
All right. So, favorite movie probably is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the acting isn't great, but I just love it still.
Yeah,
dude,
same.
So, it doesn't matter the order. No, like, it really does.
Go character next.
All right, favorite character is probably Captain Rex, the clone trooper. He's just super interesting, and he's just a stud. He's just really cool.
Yeah, love Rex. For those of you who don't know or haven't watched the Clone Wars, Scott Fonseca. If you don't know, then he is a pretty prominent character in the Clone Wars. But yeah, I love Rex so much, and yeah he's a great character.
Awesome.
Great character. Favorite show?
All right, favorite show is Clone Wars.
Of course, love it.
It was that was really close between Clone Wars and Mando, but
yeah,
you just can't beat Clone Wars. It's just amazing.
I completely agree. Okay, and then lightsaber color.
All right, so lightsaber color. I think that yellow would be my choice because I just think that gray Jedi are really interesting. They're just kind of like the in between. They don't take either side. They just think that there's a force. There's no light or dark.
Yeah, love that, dude.
So.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's super, super interesting too. If you want to learn a bit more about Grey Jedi, you can go back and listen to my episode about the Force. I go into them very briefly, and I'm sure I'll go into them a little more in depth moving forward. But so speaking of lightsaber colors, today we're going to be talking to y'all about lightsabers in general. We're going to just be telling you what a lightsaber is, how crystals are found, what the different colors mean, the different forms that people use, and in our opinions, what the best duels are. And then at the very end of the day, we're going to subject Jeb to good old Rank and Master and see if he has what it takes to move up a rank. So,
bring it.
Without further ado, let's just dive into some ARC Trooper training.
Gentlemen, who wants to be an ARC Trooper? I do, sir!
Alrighty, welcome to ARC Trooper training, folks. We're going to start off today by defining what a lightsaber is. So, a lightsaber is an elegant energy melee weapon, which is characteristic of the Jedi and Sith orders. It's more than just a sword, it's a reflection of the Force user who wields it. They can cut through most materials and deflect most energy-based attacks, and they're powered by inner crystals called kyber crystals, which are Force-attuned stones that connect to the person who wields them. So, Jeb, what's your favorite lightsaber? Of anybody's lightsaber.
Of anyone's lightsabers?
Yeah. This is off script. I caught him off guard.
Yeah. So I think that Sidious's lightsabers are really just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I
Small
forgot.
ones.
Yeah, this is really small, but I mean, they're identical. They're I forgot what the material was. What do you remember?
I don't remember what they are. Yeah.
I think that was like it was a nod to because Jedi Masters could put that material on their lightsabers like a little bit, but he just to kind of make fun of the Jedi, he made his entire lightsabers out of them. Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that, and this is why Jeb's on for this episode, because he can kind of fill in my holes in my knowledge. But yeah, I'd say my favorite's Mace Windu, because it's okay. I love Mace Windu, but also his lightsaber is really, really cool.
Yeah,
and I just like how shiny it is. I got a Mace Windu lightsaber when we went to Galaxy's Edge Disney World.
Yeah,
it's just so nice. It's so good. I love it so much. But okay, so that being said, we're going to talk about crystal selection here. So I got a quote from the 2003 Clone Wars micro series.
Oh yeah,
when Luminara Unduli is helping her Padawan Barriss Offee create her lightsaber on Ilum, Luminara says, "The crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi, and the Jedi is the crystal of the Force." And so that's kind of just a very brief rundown of how kyber crystals are kind of like almost a symbiotic relationship, or like forge a connection, and have almost a symbiotic relationship between the Jedi, and it's kind of an extension of their connection to the Force. So how Jedi found their crystals, it could happen in many ways. We see it happen in ways other than the gathering on Ilum, but that was the primary method of obtaining crystals. As you see in the Clone Wars series, younglings would travel to the ice planet of Ilum, and then there were crystal caverns where kyber crystals formed. Younglings went into the caverns to seek out their crystals, and crystals reached out in the form of kind of a wispy song that was only perceptible to the Jedi who had a connection to that crystal. And then on the other side, dark side users would corrupt kyber crystals and kind of subject it to their will, which in a process called bleeding, which I kind of went into in my episode about the Sith. And the crystal to the Sith is a tool to be subjugated to their will rather than an extension of their connection to the Force. And that's why, since the crystals are quote unquote bled, that is why Sith lightsaber blades are red. So yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but don't Sith normally get their lightsabers from Jedi that they've killed, or is that
canonically? Yes, either that or they were Jedi that turned bad, like Dooku.
Yes.
And they had Dooku had a blue blade when he was a Jedi, and then whenever he turned, he switched to he bled his lightsaber, and then it became red. But in that's how it is in canon. In Legends, in Legends, Sith created synthetic kyber crystals, and that's why they were red. And they were a little unstable, and they were actually able to break through regular lightsaber blades because they were kind of enhanced. But that is no longer canon. Those don't exist anymore. Yeah. But that's just kind of a cool little tidbit. Okay, so moving right along, we're going to go into the different lightsaber colors and what they mean. And then Jeb and I both took lightsaber or like little BuzzFeed quizzes to see what lightsaber colors we would have. And so we'll talk about those afterwards. So first off, blue, which was the most common lightsaber color. This signifies a Jedi Guardian. Their approach to their use of the Force. It was in a more physical sense, so they were a lot more skilled in lightsaber combat. Mm-hmm. These Jedi tended to be warriors and protectors, and kind of that they served that sort of role within the Jedi Order. So some notable practitioners with blue lightsabers would be Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Plo Koon. Jeb, that's your favorite Jedi.
He's my favorite Jedi.
Yeah. Is awesome. All this said, that there might be some mild, or I'll do a spoiler warning later. But at this point, there shouldn't be too many spoilers. So green is indicative of a Jedi consular, and so what they were. They had a more spiritual approach to the Force. They had a strong connection to the Force. So these are, and they were more scholars, Jedi seers, and diplomats. They didn't rely on they didn't focus on combat skills as much. It was more just kind of connecting to the Force itself. So these were people like Yoda had a green lightsaber, Luke had a green lightsaber, Qui-Gon had a green lightsaber. I think those are kind of some
The main
really
ones.
good. Yeah. Well, just the ones that are the most
Prominent.
I think that kind of fit that description really,
Yeah.
really well.
But something that sont of goes away from that is Punk Krell.
Krell is, well, Krell, I think that was just because they didn't want him to have like too.
Oh, okay.
He was very strong in the Force, though.
That's fair.
So, I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of interesting when Jedi have like one of each. I don't know. But yeah, Krell's super interesting.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Watch the Clone Wars, the Umbar arc. It's a great arc. If you haven't,
You need to watch it.
You do need to watch it. It was mandatory on my roadmap. And if you haven't watched the Clone Wars, go back to episodes 2 and 3 of this podcast where I go through my roadmap through the Clone Wars, make it easy and manageable to go through that amazing series. Okay, moving forward, we got red, which, like I said, signifies a crystal that has been bled. It is indicative of a dark side affiliation and signifies anger and dominance. So some notable practitioners would be any Sith, basically. So we got Sidious, Maul, Dooku, Vader, Kylo Ren. He wasn't a Sith, but he used a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
And cool thing about Kylo actually was that the reason that his blade was so kind of volatile and kind of like craggly and like he had like the jagged edges was because his kyber crystal was actually cracked whenever he tried to bleed it. And so that created an unstable, and that's why he needed the cross guard, was because there was so much excess energy that he needed those little two ports in order to kind of expel that excess energy.
Well, I thought that he needed the cross guard because Snoke told him about that lightsaber design, and because it was the ancient design.
There's so little continuity within the sequel trilogy that that could be correct. It really could. I think it might have.
Because
go for it.
Sorry, Disney was talking about they kind of made it look like that so that he looked like a knight, and eventually so that he would save the princess, which would be Rey. But
so dumb. It's not dumb, but like just the way they try to justify these things is that's cool, and that makes sense. But I think that was a cop out for the fact that they didn't think through the sequels at all.
Yeah, I'm
not. They're trying to provide some. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not bashing you for this fact. It's a very interesting fact, but I just think it's funny because they literally had no idea what they were doing going into the sequels, and they're trying to act like they had that planned out, which they didn't. And more on that later. I'm going to have a nuanced conversation with Scott Fonseca over our thoughts on the sequel trilogy, where they went right, where they went wrong. And I've already bashed the sequels enough. I don't want to be a sequel hater. It's less the sequels themselves, more Disney's approach to how they handled it. And it felt very rushed and immature and almost disrespectful. But
it was kind of like it felt more like a kid's movie almost.
I mean, they are kids movies though. George Lucas made Star Wars for kids.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyways, this isn't about that. We got off guard. Sorry. More on that later. Purple. Love this. Love it. Purple is a balance between the light and the dark side. It represents conflict, uncertainty, and discipline. And some notable practitioners. The only one in canon is Mace Windu, my favorite character. And then, but in Legends, Darth Revan also had a purple lightsaber, which kind of signified his struggle between the light side and the dark side. And then I would have a purple lightsaber as well. But because I had 3 people in each other category, so I might as well have 3 people here. So I'm going to include myself in
that. Okay.
Okay, so moving right along. We got yellow blades. So these were, this is Jeb's favorite lightsaber color, where they signified Jedi Sentinels, who kind of had a balance between the combative and scholarly pursuits within the Force. So kind of walked the line in the middle of the Guardians and the Consulars. And so, yeah, they represent kind of the middle ground. So these, and within the Jedi Order, they tended to be Jedi shadows who were really cool. They went undercover and kind of like did little sting operations where they would kind of go amongst the citizens of the Republic in order to kind of increase security. And then, speaking of security, Jedi Temple Guards also used yellow lightsabers. And then if you go outside the Jedi Order, a lot of gray Jedi did use yellow lightsabers to kind of signify a lack of affiliation with either the light or the dark side, which Jeb kind of went into in his profile. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
Two other people that also had yellow lightsabers were, I forgot his first name, Master Poof. Do you remember?
Yarael Poof.
Yarael Poof, yeah. And then in Legends, Plo Koon also had a yellow lightsaber before his blue one.
Yeah. No, yeah. And we don't ever see Yarael Poof use his lightsaber. But yeah, Plo's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's a great... I'd say I don't know who my second favorite Jedi is, because obviously Mace is my number one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's Plo or Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's both probably Plo, but I don't know. But yeah, so those are both in Legends. Yarael Poof. Well, actually, we don't have any canonical lightsaber color for Yarael Poof, but he's kind of the Q-tip looking Jedi.
Yeah.
In Episode 1, he's not in any other movies, but he kind of looks like a Kaminoan. He's not. I don't remember what species he is. But, anyways, and then Plo in Legends has a yellow lightsaber, and he also uses Electric Judgment, which is really, really cool.
Really cool.
Which is the Jedi equivalent to Force Lightning.
Probably going to go more in depth than another.
I went in depth with it in my Force episode, which was, I don't remember episode numbers, but you can go back. It's my deep dive into the Force. Okay, white. These are crystals that have been purified and restored after being bled, and it signifies purity and a lack of affiliation with either side of the Force. So kind of like yellow in that way. And the only white lightsabers that we've seen are, spoiler alert, Ahsoka in Rebels, which is super, super cool. She got her lightsaber crystals from an Inquisitor that she killed, and then she repurified them and made them her own. And she's no longer a Jedi in this, and it's super, super cool. Mm-hmm. I really like white.
Because you could also kind of classify her as a gray Jedi, but not really.
Kind of, yeah.
She's more leaning towards the light side than the dark side. She's not quite in the middle.
Yeah. I don't know what I would classify as Ahsoka. I would say gray Jedi at that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because she's kind of she's doing her own thing. She's not doing anything through the will of the council or anything like that. So she's her own authority figure. So yeah, that's pretty indicative of a gray Jedi. Mm-hmm. Lastly, these are all canon colors. There's, like in Legends, there's orange. There's a lot of things in Legends. So I'm just sticking to canon colors. The last one is black. This is the dark saber. There's only one that we know of, and this is a Mandalorian symbol of leadership. It is one of a kind from the first Mandalorian Jedi, Tar Vizsla. And if you want, you can go back to episode 10 for some history behind the Mandalorians and the Darksaber. I go into a lot more depth.
Didn't you say that you didn't remember episode numbers?
Yes, but I actually wrote down that the Mandalorian episode was episode 10 on my outline. And so I had that one ready. But any thoughts on the Darksaber, Joe?
Oh, it's just such a cool thing, man.
Yeah. What I love about it is that they kind of designed it to look like a black hole. So they had the ring of light around it, and then there's the black in the middle. And then kind of the jagged, like, electric edge.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
And to kind of make that, it looks more like a sword. Like it has like a blade shape rather than a rounded shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to go back, Yarael Poof is a Carmian.
Carmian?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Once again, see, filling in the gaps in my knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the quiz that we took. So we both took a BuzzFeed quiz to figure out what lightsaber color we should have. I got purple. because
Yeah.
I'm awesome. And so yeah, like I said before, that signifies kind of a walk between the light side and the dark side. I always get purple in any lightsaber quiz I've ever taken.
Yeah, like I think that I don't remember any other lightsaber quiz that he hasn't gotten purple.
Yeah. And I don't even try to I don't choose answers to try to sway my quiz anyway. Like that just happens to be what I get. And purple's my favorite color, and
Always has been.
Always has been. And yeah, so that's mine. Jeb got.
I got white,
which is so cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I was pretty pleased whenever I got that. So.
Yeah. So that's about well, I don't know. I didn't try to get other colors. I don't know what all the options were, but I'm guessing that's about as close to yellow as you could have gotten.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if there would have been yellow there.
Well, now Jeb and I aren't sure whether or not that they just had the cool lightsaber colors
obscure ones.
To make us feel good about ourselves. Like, oh wow, I got a rare color, but those are the only ones that are available. But yeah, so we did that just for this episode, just because we figured it would be a fun thing. So moving on, we got some variations in the type of lightsabers that are available for Jedi or Sith to make. The pretty standard ones are single blades. Those are just like your regular swords. You got one blade, one hilt, you're done. Saber staffs are really cool. This is like what Darth Maul, Savage Opress have. And it's a double-sided lightsaber. So you have one hilt, but two blades on either end. This was more characteristic of the Sith because it was a more aggressive type of lightsaber to have. We also have Shoto Sabers, which were just shorter lightsabers. So these were, if you're a regular-sized Jedi, you use this as kind of a secondary weapon like Ahsoka Tano did in the Clone Wars. But if you're like Yoda, then you just have it as your regular lightsaber.
Yoda and Yaddle.
Yoda and Yaddle, yeah.
Yaddle.
Yaddle. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but it was she was the female species or female member of Yoda's species that was sitting on the Jedi Council in Episode 1. For those of you who
Peel.
don't know that. Evan Peel is not Yoda's species.
No, but he has the Shoto Saber.
Oh yes, he does. Yeah. That's correct. Evan Peel is who they were rescuing from the Citadel in the Clone Wars.
Great art.
Watch it. But he kind of has the big ears. He kind of looks like Yoda, but he is not the same species. We also have curved hilts. This is like what Count Dooku Darth Bane had. Count Dooku and Darth Bane. And this was kind of characteristic of people who were excellent duelers and were kind of very proficient in that side of their connection to the Force. And then finally we have Jar Kai, which was a style using two single blades. So like Ahsoka Tano used this, Asajj Ventress used this, and it was essentially just using one blade in each hand. So yeah,
Ventress also had a curved blade.
Ventress also had two curved blades. That's very true. And then Palpatine also used that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So moving into lightsaber forms. So there are 7 different forms, and the information that I got from this was primarily from the Essential Guide to the Force. I love this book. It is so cool, and it has really, really cool illustrations within it. So if nothing else, you get really, really cool visuals within this book. And so form number 1 is Shicho. It's the most basic form. All Jedi younglings learn it as their first form of combat. It is, you learn to parry, block, and target basic bodily zones. It's good against many opponents, but it's not super effective against one opponent because of its sweeping motions. So the master of this form was Kit Fisto, who's the Jedi with all the tentacles on his head, the green skin, all the tentacles. He's super
He's
cool.
one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, he's John Cox's favorite. Shout out John.
Dr. John Cox.
Dr. John Cox. I'm hoping to have him on to talk about some stuff within the Star Wars universe as well. But yeah, so that's form 1. Form 2, Makachi, is it has a lot of emphasis on lightsaber to lightsaber fighting, and this was the ultimate refinement of dueling combat. So the master of this was Count Dooku, who was known to be one of the best duelers ever in the history of the Jedi
just
Order.
Period.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that Dooku got some justice done to him during the Clone Wars, because he is kind of a joke in in the movies because
Yeah,
he was tacked into. Well, he was tacked in because Darth Jar Jar was supposed to happen. Hot take.
like
but
actually.
yeah, but that's why he's so like kind of out of place and tacked on at the very end of the movie. But Makachi is super super interesting because a lot of Jedi didn't use this in like the Clone Wars era because there weren't any Sith for like 1,000 years or so they thought. So there wasn't really a need to duel. They really only needed to like deflect blaster bolts and stuff like that. So it was super super interesting that Dooku even thought to kind of master in this particular form, but worked out for him. Okay, Form 3, Sorsu. This is an emphasis on blaster deflection and defense, and it maximizes the protection of the practitioner. So Obi-Wan Kenobi was the master of this, as deemed by, I think, Mace Windu called him the master of Sorsu. And so, yeah, this is, well, I'm not going to say that, but this is essentially the edge this is what gave Obi-Wan an edge in a lot of his combat situations, because while he's not a super strong Force user, he was able to kind of outlast his opponents because he was always taking a defensive position. So he wasn't expelling any energy in attacks because he was constantly on the defensive.
Yeah,
so that's
you
how
can
he was
see this
able.
a lot in Clone Wars.
Yeah, especially when he's fighting Grievous. I think
Grievous.
that's why he was such the perfect match for Grievous, because Grievous was just such an attack based and he was an attack based foe, and he was always I think the way that he defeated so many Jedi was that he was able to outlast them because he was a machine or a cyborg.
And he had four arms.
Well, he also had 4 arms, but yeah, so that's why Obi-Wan was able to kind of stand toe to toe with him so much. Form 4, Ataru, is the acrobatic form. It has a lot of elaborate moves and flips and exceeds normal physical possibilities. And these intense and elaborate moves were meant to confuse and intimidate your opponent through speed and agility. So Yoda, I think, is the most prominent practitioner of this form, and he used this to kind of make up for his small, diminutive nature. So yeah, you see in like episode 2, he's doing all those like crazy flips and tricks.
And in the first episode of the Clone Wars.
And in the first episode of the Clone Wars too. But yeah, it's just so cool, especially since Yoda's just so unassuming because he's just a little old dude, and then he just starts flipping around.
To quote one of the droids, he is a little one, they said, and they just tried to shoot him, and then he just...
Yeah, exactly. He is a little one.
Yeah. I didn't want to do the voice because...
Well, I will do that. Okay, moving forward, Form 5, which has 2 variations. So it's Xian and Jem So. They utilize both defensive... they use the defensive capabilities of a lightsaber and turn them into offensive attacks. They emphasize blaster deflection as well as powerful blows with their lightsaber. So Anakin Skywalker was, I'd say, the most prominent practitioner of this. He used Jem So, which was the more aggressive form of the two. Focused more on the offensive rather than the defensive, but this kind of split the difference between offense and defense. So kind of like almost walk the line between Ataru and Sorso. So yeah, but I love watching Form 5 people fight because they're so powerful with their attacks, and it's super super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can especially see that in the last season of the Clone Wars with Anakin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Especially when he's fighting like Barriss.
Yeah.
Like you just see like her blocks are just kind of breaking under his blows. Like
that's spoiler alert.
Shoot. Well, yes. Yes. Well, I think that this episode's airing in June. We're recording it back in May, but I think it's airing in June. So if you haven't watched Clone Wars at this point, I'm sorry. I didn't give context behind why that was happening. So.
Oh, well, so then I might have just ruined it.
No, I mean, if I just said that and moved forward, maybe people wouldn't have noticed, but they might have been kind of confused. But you know what? I will put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this episode before the the intro even runs, just to make sure. So it's all good. I mean, Scott and I tried not to have spoilers, and then within the first like movie, we had already spoiled something pretty big, and it was like, well, okay, I guess we're doing spoilers. So okay, Form 6 is Niman. It's a balance of all the forms with overall moderation. So it was supposed to combine all 6 or 5 forms before it into the quote unquote perfect form, but it kind of only ended up being kind of like you're a jack of all trades, master of none. So you do have a good balance between all of them, but you don't really have any specific skills that set you apart. In the end, it kind of helps you achieve harmony and doesn't rely on power, because you're kind of tapping into a lot of different aspects of lightsaber combat. And the most notable practitioner that I could find, there aren't many noted practitioners of Form 6, but it was General Grievous, which is kind of interesting, which makes sense actually when you think about it, because I was trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku.
Yeah.
It makes sense that since he's not a Force user, he would have had to kind of take the most useful parts for him from each form so that he could be the most effective without being a Force user. And so that kind of resulted in his own version of Niman. So that's just kind of...
Yeah.
And some things say that Darth Maul used this one. I don't think that Darth Maul uses this. I think he uses the next one, which is Form 7 Jujo. And there are 2 variations. I'm just going to talk about them separately because they're quite different, but they're both Form 7. Jujo contains bold and direct movements. It requires more energy than most other forms, and it draws on a deep well of emotions. And most of the time, outwardly, users of Jujo present calm, but it is paired with intense inner turmoil. And this was used by pretty exclusively Sith. And Darth Maul is kind of the most prominent practitioner of this, as we see in the movies.
I thought that Jujo was used mainly with double blades. Am I right?
Yes, Jujo goes nicely with double blades because of how aggressive it is and how kind of intense all the motions are. It's very much like a Taru in the way that it has a lot of acrobatic and kind of intense movements, but unlike a Taru, it draws on inner emotions, which is why Jedi don't really use it, because they're not supposed to tap into their emotions.
There is no passion, there is peace, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then the second variation of Form 7 is Vapad, which is Mace Windu's variation. He's really one of the only practitioners. He and a couple other Jedi, but not many, because it requires so much discipline. You walk a very thin line between the light and the dark side, because you cycle energy between yourself and your opponent. So essentially, like if Windu is fighting a dark side user, he is tapping into their dark side energy in order to essentially keep up with them. And it's a stalemate of attrition, because he is using his opponent's energy until they run out of energy, and then he's able to defeat them. So it's kind of like Obi-Wan in the sense that it's almost like outlasting your opponent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's also able to match his opponent like in a fight, which is like whenever he's fighting someone who's a very good lightsaber fighter. Won't spoil it. But
wait, did we talk about this? Never mind, we didn't. No. Not that we talked about it earlier. We did.
I'm going to talk about it. But
okay.
but it allows Windu to go toe to toe with very strong opponents and not tire. And it requires immense discipline due to its proximity to the dark side. Like, you are very, very close. And if you're not super disciplined in your walk with the Force, you're most likely going to fall to the dark side. And also, it's just Mace Windu. And I love Mace Windu, and it's awesome. So, stop to discuss our quizzes. We did ones for lightsaber combat as well.
Yes.
I got Form 4 Ataru, which is the acrobatic movements and stuff, which I love. I love all the flashy stuff. Like, I'm going to be making some Star Wars fan films with my friend Sean, who was on a couple of, I think it was last week, if I remember my slate correctly.
Yeah.
And and we're going to be trying to give y'all some pretty good fight scenes. But I love Ataru and just the big, like, grandiose movements that aren't super practical, but they just look really cool.
Yeah.
And then Jeb was,
I was Form 3 Sorsu.
which is a very practical, unlike my impractical Ataru. He has a very practical Form 3 Sorsu.
Yeah, so it's used mainly for blaster defense and for fights in tight spaces.
Yes. And just in defense in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
so you're not necessarily going to be having big, impactful blows, but you're
Yeah,
not going
no.
to necessarily lose in a duel.
exactly. Because it
Unless it's,
yeah,
Go
it
for it.
focuses on remaining more calm
Exactly.
instead of tapping into
Exactly.
emotion.
So, yeah. So let's move on. We're going to be talking about what, in our opinion, the best duels in the Star Wars universe. So, Jeb, why don't you go through your three?
So there can be spoiler alerts in this one, right?
Okay,
So-
that is a very good point. So if you haven't been deterred by my spoiler warning that I'm going to put at the beginning of this episode, there are going to be pretty significant spoilers in this because
very
I
significant.
mean there just are. Yeah, these are pretty big things for the movies, for the Clone Wars, for Rebels, all of them. Like, just like if you haven't watched any of those and you don't want any spoilers, don't listen to this. And I'll put timestamps in the description of this actually, so that y'all can skip until after we talk about these duels, and then we can and then you can enjoy the rest of the episode. We're going to just go into Rank of Master after this, and then yeah, and then you can come back and listen to it whenever you've watched anything that you haven't already watched. But so that being said, what are your favorite top 3 duels?
Okay, so my number 1 is Darth Maul, Savage Opress, and Darth Sidious on Mandalore.
Love it so much. That is one of my top 3. Yes,
it's great.
It's so awesome, and it's so awesome to see Sidious in action.
Yeah,
kind
because
of
you
in
don't
his
really get to see
prime.
that.
You don't get to see it very much. And one interesting thing about Sidious is that he was a master of all 7 forms of lightsaber combat.
Like no one else is like that.
No one else has ever done that before, but he was a master of all of them, and which is just super, super interesting. Because Sith normally focused on Jujo just because they didn't want to kind of associate with the Jedi, but he
You're
was just all
liking
of
it.
them. Like in really.
Yeah, for a second you were. Now you're good.
Okay, cool. But we and so but it's just super, super impressive for Sidious to be able to, and it just kind of speaks to how powerful he is. Okay, number 2.
Probably Ahsoka and Maul on Mandalore again.
That is one of my top 3 as well. Yes.
It's just you can go. Yeah.
Well, what's super interesting about this fight is that it was actually captured with motion capture, and Ray Park, who was the body of Darth Maul in Episode 1, reprised his role as Darth Maul in this fight, and so it made the movements a lot more realistic and a lot more grounded in reality.
Yeah, a lot less
kind of fantastical.
acrobatic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
but at the same time, it still looks amazing.
Yeah, so
and just the stakes of that fight are just so cool as well. Okay, and then number 3.
Okay, before I go to number 3, I'm gonna say one. Does it count like from Mando? Wait, that's a spoiler for Mando as well. Mando
That's
and
fine.
Moff Gideon, like him with the Beskar spear and
I wouldn't consider that a lightsaber duel, but
one of them is using a lightsaber.
One of them is using a lightsaber. Yeah, okay, we can do that as an honorable mention.
But number 3 would be Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar.
That is, so we have the same top 3, different orders, because Anakin Obi-Wan is my number 1.
Oh, okay.
Always will be. But then I go Darth Maul, Savage, and Sidious, and then Darth Maul and Ahsoka. And but I love Anakin and Obi-Wan so much.
I didn't say that in a particular order, so I think that the Anakin Obi-Wan would go above the Maul Ahsoka. But
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But but yeah, just the emotional intensity of that fight is just so amazing.
Mhm.
And I think that and it's so impressive because they didn't speed that up at all.
No, they
did
did.
the actors Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor did that in real time, and that is just so physically impressive. As someone who has tried to do lightsaber duels and stuff like that, it is so very impressive that they were able to do that.
And they're not like martial arts people at all.
No, they're just actors. So it's such an amazing fight all around, and it's actually, fun fact, the longest sword fight in cinema history. I think it's 11 or 12 minutes long, and that is the longest sword fight in cinema. So okay, some honorable mentions, just so that we're not just talking about the same three fights. We got Sidious versus Mace Windu, as well as Aiden Kohler, CC10, and Kit Fisto, but they kind of died right away, which is super cool because you see Vapad in action. I wish that it was a little more impressive, because like in the novelization, like you see Sidious with like blinding speed, and like they're moving so fast that like it's barely perceptible. And I wish that we could see that a little personified a little bit better, because it is a little underwhelming in the movie, but just the energy, like you can feel how tense it is between the two. Definitely. And I just think it's super cool. And Mace Windu wins. I don't care what people say that Sidious let him win.
He does. And Sidious did not let him win. Anakin intervened.
Yes. But Windu was going to kill him. It should have. You know.
No, but what I...
Hashtag Windu's the real chosen one. Not really, but you know.
Well, he thought that he was.
He did think that he was. That's why he resented Anakin. Anyways, continue.
So, in that fight, it's very far-fetched, but in Bad Batch hasn't happened yet, by the way.
Oh yeah, Bad Batch hasn't happened when we're talking about this, so so he's about to have a Bad Batch theory.
So, I think that they're going to kind of cut to whenever Mace is getting thrown out the window.
Yeah.
And then we see him fall.
Yeah.
And then he survives, yeah. Yes. At like either the end or like in the middle or I don't know. Something.
Who knows? But yeah. So once again, we're recording this on May the 1st of 2021. This is, if my slate is correct, is going to release on June 9th. So we don't know what's going on, but that's okay. So, okay, I'm just going to go through these a little bit quicker because we're a little short on time.
Oh, gosh.
Not short on time, but like we're going a little longer. Yoda versus Dooku in episode 2 is super cool. You see Ataru versus Makachi. And Dooku's actually Yoda's Padawan, like personal Padawan. So that's a super cool dynamic. Maul versus Vizsla in the Clone Wars is a super brutal and awesome fight. Whenever they're fighting for the throne of Mandalore. And then we got Yoda versus Sidious in episode 3 is a super cool fight. And I actually didn't know that fight happened whenever I watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time. I knew about like the Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I knew about Order 66, but I didn't know about the Yoda Sidious fight. And so that was a super cool like extra thing. I'm not talking about, well, I guess like Luke versus Vader in episode 6 is really cool just because of the inner turmoil within Luke. And that's the best lightsaber duel in the sequel or the original trilogy. Maul versus Obi-Wan on Tatooine.
Oh yeah.
Rebels.
I don't know if you could really call that a duel.
It's a duel. I call it a duel. But it's super cool because Dave Filoni talks about this really well. And I said that I was going to not go into detail about these, but I want to go into detail about this one. Oh shoot, I have another one from Rebels that I want to talk about too. But it's super cool because you see just the difference between Maul and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan hasn't let this feud between him and Maul like kind of dictate his life. He has become like a true master in his time on Tatooine. And you see just his discipline as he cycles through his Clone Wars fighting style, then to his more original trilogy fighting style. And then he ends in a stance that we see Qui-Gon in during their fight on Naboo.
Yeah.
And we just see Maul restless, like he's twirling his lightsaber, trying to get a reaction from Obi-Wan. And then he ends up trying to use the move that
exact
he
same
uses
move.
on Qui-Gon to kill him against Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan just slices right through it, and it's so awesome. Then the last one is Ahsoka versus Vader. Just the emotional intensity of it is so amazing. And if you haven't watched Rebels already, I'm sorry for the spoilers, but you should watch it. And I'm going to have some episodes in the future about why you should watch it. Because I said that you didn't need to watch it in my first episode, but if you've gotten this far and you're really enjoying Star Wars, I would say at this point you should watch it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Like
the good episodes are so good.
The good episodes are amazing. The middle episodes, but but I will have a roadmap through the Star Wars Rebels eventually, yeah, I'll get that out to y'all as soon as I have it. But okay, so we're going a little bit longer than I was wanting to go, but that's okay. Yeah. And we're going to go straight into the rank of Master.
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of Master.
Alrighty. So if this is y'all's first time listening to the podcast, what rank of Master is essentially an ongoing incentive for people to come back on the podcast. People are going to be given a 3-question quiz of ambiguous point values for each question. And then their starting rank is Youngling. And then they move up from Youngling to Padawan to Knight to Master each time they win this segment. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let my personal biases and opinions of you as a person dictate whether or not you move on to the next rank, as well as your performance on the quiz.
You're just the best brother ever. I mean, I only have one, but...
Well, that means I'm also the worst.
Oh.
But yes, much like the actual Jedi Council, I will let my personal opinions sway my decision on whether or not you should move up to the next rank. So, without further ado, question number 1, Jeb, your starting rank is Youngling.
Yep.
What is the name of Anakin Skywalker's Tordarian slave owner in Episode 1?
Watto.
Correct. Alrighty, you are 1 for 1 so far. Question 2. What is the swamp planet that Yoda is exiled to?
Dagobah.
That's correct.
I was going to say. Yeah, that's correct.
And then, okay, you're 2 for 2 so far. Question number 3. What is the semi-aquatic sentient species native to Naboo? Members of the species include... Can you let me finish the question?
I'm sorry.
Members of this species include Jar Jar Binks, Captain Tarples, and Boss Nass. What are they?
Nabooian. No, Gungan. Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yes, they're Gungans. Whatever. Interrupting me in the middle of my question.
No.
So we went 3 for 3, but he did interrupt me, so I might need to take this into consideration. Okay, the council has made a decision, and I guess you can move on to the rank of Padawan or whatever.
Yeah.
Loser.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah. So how do you feel after moving on?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I think that I did better than Sean. And
you did do better than Sean. That's not saying much, though. Sean
no offense, Sean, but that really is.
No offense, Sean. We love you, but
yeah, we do
better.
Did Scott go 3 for 3? 3 for 3?
Scott went 3 for 3.
Oh, yeah. Good job, Scott.
So you and Scott are the only ones to win it so far, and y'all are both at the rank of Padawan. I consider myself...
Never mind.
Wait, no, go for it.
How many do you need to go to move up a rank? Do you just choose?
Okay, so you won from Youngling to Padawan. Oh, how much do you need? Yeah, I just go off of vibes.
Oh, all right.
There are I don't know. 3 for 3, you're pretty solid.
Yeah, all right.
Chance of going through, and yeah, but other than that, I just go off of vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So this wouldn't be a proper episode if I didn't leave you with a little bit more. Okay, so actually, do you have a more for me, Jeb, or do I have a?
I mean, I guess I can. So
no, if you don't have anything,
no, I've got one.
Okay.
So ancient Jedi in Legends, instead of using lightsabers, they use things called Proto Sabers. So they're basically like a lightsaber, but they had cords running from the saber to like a giant heavy backpack that they had to wear.
Yeah. So they essentially had to wear like a car battery and had to plug in their lightsabers.
So it was very inefficient. And if the cord was cut, then the lightsaber just like went out, and then
Exactly.
you could just get like stabbed.
Yes. And that was a very popular move.
And the Sith were the first ones to have cordless lightsabers.
Yes,
so that gave them a huge edge against the Jedi until they also developed their own.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's our first more from someone else. Very nice.
It wasn't as polished as all of your other ones.
Well, yeah, but I kind of put you on the spot, so you actually did really well.
Thank you.
But I'll save my more for another time. Okay, well, that's all that we have for today's episode, folks. I really hope that y'all enjoyed it. If y'all want to check out the rest of our podcast episodes, you can find them on our YouTube channel, which is Twin Sun Talks Podcast, or you can go to our website, which is twinsuntalks.wixsite.com/twin-sun. That's kind of the one-stop shop for everything to do with our podcast. If you want to get notifications whenever I post new episodes, you can sign up, log into an account through our website. There's a little login option at the top of your screen whenever you get to it. And then if you also want more notifications, you can also follow us on Instagram at Twin Sun Talks, one word. That's all that I got, Jeb. You got anything else?
All that I got, yeah.
Okay, very nice.
Taking your first steps into a larger world. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that you were trying to make me say that.
I wasn't trying to, but yes, you have taken your first steps into a larger world. May the force be with you. See you in the next episode. Jeez, Jeb's just like
stealing your thunder.
He's stealing my thunder so hard. Alrighty, bye, folks.
All right, see y'all.